If I were to ask you, what is Windcraft's most forgettable feature? What do you think you'd say? Maybe boss altars? The powder exchange in Corcus? The underworld crypt? How about the necromancy merchant in Thanos? Okay, now that I think about it, Windcraft has a lot of forgettable features, but today, I specifically want to talk about the feature I think has the most potential of them all: housing. Now, when I say housing is forgettable, I don't mean the player base has forgotten about it. I do wish more players actually utilize this system, but really, it's the content team who's forgotten about housing. Housing was first added in 1.20, which dropped on January 20th, 2021, a little over 1.5 years ago at the time of making this video. Since its release, it has received a grand total of 0 updates. Oh, wait, what's that? Oh, never mind. In September, 8 months after its release, they added a potion merchant to housing. Never mind, I rest my case, I guess housing is saved. Okay, yeah, so housing hasn't received a ton of love since it was released, but does it really need any more updates? Well, I'd say yes. Firstly, there's a fair amount of glitches with block breaking and not returning to your inventory, blocks going invisible, and just generally annoying issues which I would have expected to be fixed by now. Also, there's a ton of features that should be no-brainers but still haven't been added yet. And look, I get that housing is probably only appealing to a small percentage of the player base, and the recently revamped spell system has understandably been the priority for the content team, but look, player housing is important, okay? I really can't articulate this better than Funk already has, so I'll let them speak for themselves.
This idea of giving the player a small slice of the world to do what they want with really makes you feel like you live there. But even more than that, when done right, these bases can create a lot of layers to the gameplay that I don't hear talked about much.
You know, even with its currently limited system, there's still so much you can do in housing with just a bit of creativity. You can build a cozy little village like I did. You can build a PvP arena. There's even a Windcraft Fight Club hosted by Meloncraft80 with a 20-stack prize pool that is only possible because of player housing. You can build a museum to show off various exclusive items and achievements. You can build a Winter Wonderland in the middle of August. You can build your own town complete with various merchants, lore, secrets. I mean, this house isn't even done yet, but you can already tell that it's going to be one of the best once it's finished. You can build a parkour arena that I just suck at. You can build a church dedicated to Salted, but don't do this, just go to therapy instead. My point being, there's so much you can do with the limited resources housing offers, and there'd be even more you could do if it was streamlined and had more features. But before I talk about what features I think should be added to housing, I first want to analyze why more players don't already utilize the current systems, or simply don't even know about it. Imagine you're a new player who just started playing on the server. You're walking through Ragni, trying to figure out what to do, learning the basic mechanics, and yeah, you're just not going to even see the hot air balloon because why would you go to this fairly obscure part of the town? Okay, so that's fine that new players don't learn about housing in Ragni, but what about the time they get to Deathless? Well, to be honest, I don't know if a new player would even notice the balloon here either. The city is super colorful, so the balloon sort of just melts into the background, and plus even if you do notice it, you're probably so focused on the 20 quests you need to complete that you'll just forget about the balloon in the next 5 minutes. A simple way to circumvent this issue, and teach both old and new players of housing, is to have a quest that simply takes players to their housing island and serves as a tutorial to show how it works. I'm not looking for a quest with Oscar-worthy writing here, I'm literally just looking for any tutorial so new players understand how housing works without needing to figure it out themselves or look it up online. Now, beyond just not knowing of the feature, I think the other main reason why players don't use housing is because of its grindiness and frankly lack of accessibility. In order to buy blocks, you need to gather materials around the world, which I think is perfectly fine because it encourages you to gather resources even if you don't personally craft items. The issue is though, the more you buy a block, the more resources it takes to buy. For some reason. I think block price should remain a consistent 1 resource for X number of blocks, and not increase the more you buy something. I mean, look at this. 4 gudgeon oil for 5 buttons? You can get a better deal at Hobby Lobby. Lowering the resource cost would make building a house less grindy and likely result in more players trying it out. The other issue with player accessibility is that some players just straight up are not good at building. I don't say this as a jab, but more so as a factual statement because I have talked to several people who say they want to try housing, but don't because they don't know how to build. I think you should be able to buy some templates. Nothing too grand, but maybe each region you buy an island in has its own starting house that you can either harvest for blocks or use as your own personal house if you don't know how to build. And the last issue with housing accessibility is that without the hero or champion rank, you don't even have access to your full island. Without these ranks, you have a fairly small building circle in the center of the island. Now, I get you need to incentivize players to buy ranks since the server is free to play, but I feel this restriction straight up goes too far as it limits player access to a very enjoyable feature of the game. I think every player, regardless of rank, should have access to their entire housing island. So in short, I think by adding some quest or tutorial to teach players how housing works, lowering the resource cost to build, adding housing templates, and removing the rank restrictions, then housing would become a lot more accessible to players and more people would use it. Now beyond those changes for accessibility, here's what features I think housing should actually add. While the block palette of housing is pretty good, it's still missing some blocks I figured would have been obvious. Now in no particular order, here's what blocks need to be added. Bookshelves in this cool 3D book model, hay bales, fire, water, lava, gray leaves, crops, cauldrons, rails, this cool candle model. I'm sure there's other blocks that should be added that I've left out, but these in particular would allow for so much more detail that is currently lacking. Beyond just blocks, what about other cool placeable stuff around the island? Imagine if you could put launch pads around your island. That'd be cool, right? Or what if you could put your pets around the island, that way you can display your favorite ones? Going off that, what if you could spawn various quest NPCs around the place, just to help the island feel so much more alive? Now in terms of actual gameplay, what if housing could have game modes you could activate to play with other players? What about a capture the flag mode on islands? What about races or time travels? Remember swarms? Yeah, no you don't. But what if you could have small swarms of mobs attack your island, and then you could invite your friends over to help defend against the swarm? These are rudimentary ideas admittedly, but I'd love for there to be more available content on housing islands, that way you could actually have stuff to do, rather than just run around and admire your build. Look, honestly, the fact that the content team gave us player housing at all was unexpected and a really nice addition. But right now, it feels like it's still in that awkward, juvenile stage and has yet to reach its full potential. The fact that the housing's wiki page itself is still under construction speaks volumes for where the actual feature is right now. Player housing can allow for so much, but before it becomes more accessible and polished, I guess it will simply remain Wynncraft's most forgettable feature.